I forgot to record on the last interview. But that's okay. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the amazing Jaime Henderson, aka the Repurpose Facilitator. Her business name is Repurpose Facilitation, I should say. Yeah. Apologies. So welcome, Jaime. I know we've just come off the end of another interview, so thank you very, very much. If you guys want to watch that, you can go to the other interview. We'll share that one with you too. So I just want to have a brief chat about like who you were in a business perspective, who you were and who you are now and who you're becoming. Mm-hmm. So tell us that one.
I have always worked for big organisation. So I started out at a university. I now work in government. So my personal business experience was this. I had nothing. I knew nothing. Quite frankly, I still feel like I know nothing, but I do know a lot more now than I used to.
Yeah, you know a lot more than nothing that you didn't know.
Yeah. I remember the first time I sat in a room at, I think it must have been a Coach and Connect session that you were running, and you were talking about Avatar, and I'm like, what is this? What is this person that she keeps talking about?
Yeah. This little one perfect person. I know. Yeah.
And I felt very out of my depth. I still do feel out of my depth quite a lot because I'm constantly learning new things. But then when I go back and revisit the older things, I'm like, oh, I get what that means now.
And that's so, I love that you just brought that up then, because I know there's many courses I've done and like yourself, but I've redone some of them and people go, why are you going back to do it? Because when you go back the second time, you kind of go, now I got it. There's such a depth in learning of repeating it. It's, you know, anyone can get the information. Look, at the end of the day, at the moment, you can get information anywhere. Go on YouTube and search. I've learned so many things from doing it. The information's there, but it's actually putting it into practice and making it an actual skill is where the repetition comes. So I love that you say that.
Just the other day, I was writing some stuff down around like sorts of packages that I could offer to people. And I'm like, oh, so if someone says no, what would I do? And then I went, hey, wait, that's a funnel. Funnels. They can be as hard or as easy as you want. But the trick is when you're starting, start with one funnel and really get that going and learn how to do it. So many people make it really simple and almost too simple that people think I can do that. And then when they realize all the bits underneath it, it's a bit scary. So for you, how would you explain a funnel to somebody if they were listening to this just briefly? It's the process you take a potential client through. So ultimately, you have the pointy end of your funnel, which is where hopefully they come and join with you and work with you. But it's the process of how they get to that point. And you obviously have one process for, you know, the ideal is everyone, each step of the way, they say yes and eventually reach the pointy end. But sometimes they don't. So it was about, what do I do when they don't say yes? And what can I do? And so, you know, keeping them there so I don't lose touch with them, but they're still aware of what's going on if they want to be involved in some way.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's very much about that. They say yes, they go here. They say no, they stay on this little list or whatever that is and be nurtured. It's really quite, takes a lot of work to build a list, to get people on your list. And so then to nurture them and keep them there, it is that funnel process is really vital. Otherwise you're getting people in, they're going out the door. They say no, they're going out the door. I know, because I've done that. I wasn't even saving names. It was like, oh, you're a client, right? We're finished, see ya. Right, you're another client, right? No, we're finished, see ya. And it was just so detrimental that I wasn't communicating with these people. So tell me, what is the your biggest learnings at the moment within business?
For me, it's definitely been around finding somebody else who has done it.
Right.
It's because I need to, you know, this is definitely one thing where I cannot learn this on my own. I mean, I probably could, but it's very hard work for me as it is. So finding someone else who's been through it and who can walk me through the processes, that has definitely been the best thing that I've done.
All right. Awesome. And what criteria do you put in place to find that person?
To find them for the first time, it's usually around recommendations.
Right.
Once I have experienced them, for lack of a better term, I can then make a decision as to whether that's a fit for me or not.
Yeah. So they
generally I
resonate
find
with you.
If somebody that I know has worked with them and has achieved results, that's enough for me to start looking at them and going, okay, is this where I want to go?
Yeah.
For some people, there's a plethora of stuff out there, so I can do my own research ahead of time to find out about the sorts of information, how they talk, the sorts of things they talk about, and find out if that's where I want to go.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not so easy to find.
Awesome. So when
Paul.
Sorry?
I'm like, Paul.
Okay. So if so there had to have been a point, and I know you shared some in the other interview, that you've decided to go into business. And then you've started it. What are some of the mistakes that you've made? Because we've all made them. Let's lay it out there.
Right. Number one would have been inconsistencies. So I would do something and then it all got a bit too hard, so then I would just stop doing it. Whereas I've found if I at least keep doing something, it makes it so much easier because I've got momentum. I've got a bit more faith in myself from what I have done to keep going. And the other thing probably would have been not treating this as important as the day job. So it was very much when I came into it, I was doing, and like work was priority, and quite often I would work extra hours. And then if I felt like it when I got home, I might do something.
Right.
Which was at complete odds with the story that I was saying, which was I wanted to set up this business as a way to transition out of the day job. Whereas if I'm not giving it that priority, how can I possibly?
Right.
So it's been learning that, yes, I've got a 9 to 5, but that's where that finishes now.
Yes.
And so now it's having the other things. And I mentioned in the other interview, for me, when I go into a session specifically around the business stuff, I need to know what am I trying to achieve. Yeah. So I might have an hour scheduled, but if I haven't decided ahead of time what I'm looking to achieve in that hour, I'm very good at procrastinating.
Yeah.
There's so many things I could be doing. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, that's I love that you bring that up, because I found the same. It was like we dabble for so much, and there's something in us obviously that's pushing us to grow a business, whether that's to replace an income or whatever that is. Well, if we've started that, and look, it took me years, many more years than you've been doing it, many more years, because I liked the idea of being busy somehow. I think I was addicted to it. And I had a full-time job as well, and I was doing that on the side. But this business never became the priority, because I was also too scared to let go of the other thing, because I wanted to replace it before I'd let it go, blah, blah. But when I made it a priority, and as you said, became consistent, even if it was only this little bit. And I remember actually my mentor saying to me, well, it's better to move at the speed of grace than to not move at all. But it was so true, because then I could look back over a year or two and go, okay, I've still worked full time, blah, blah, blah. But I've also done this, this, and this in my business. And now that just then, you know, and it's like that, we kind of go like this, and then all of a sudden it goes like that. And that momentum started, and it kind of made sense then. But the consistency, no matter how small it was vital in building that. So you're so right with that consistency, and keep that going. So what is, how do you prioritize that when you're working full time? Because I know a lot of people that are going to listen to this, because sometimes, and you and I both know, whether it's in coaching or consulting or something like that, people try and put on a face of, oh, I'm doing this business, blah, blah, and they would never tell anyone that they're working full time or part time. I was always like yourself. Well, I won't say always. At first, I wouldn't admit it either. But then I started telling people, mate, I'm working full time to sustain and support this, to grow it. I don't believe in the jump off a cliff and leave yourself no backup option and put yourself into financial hardship to do it. And people may shoot me to say that, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm going to do what you got to do to get to where you want to go. Take the shortest route to the money. So whatever you can do that can earn you money to keep you sustained so you can do what you really want to do that. And whatever that is, whether it's a job, whether it's go out and work part-time, whether it's some other skill you already have, that doesn't take up too much of your brain power while you're trying to grow this, I think is vital. So how do you prioritize your business building?
Okay, I'm going to be honest, very, very badly.
That's okay. That's okay. I love that you're so honest about it, because so many people will be watching this and going, oh, thank God, because I thought it was just me. So, yeah. Okay. So
I am quite lucky because I am now single. I don't have any children, which gives me a lot of outside time.
Yeah.
That, you know, basically once I leave work, once I get home, that time is mine, and it's my choice how I use it. I have had a lot of health issues over the last few years since my husband died. So for me, the juggling actually is like a three-way thing, because I need to juggle how I'm feeling and how I'm coping as well, to make sure I don't burn out and wind up being really, really sick again. So there is a little bit of flex in there. What I have tried to start doing is setting aside a particular time of the week, which is a non-negotiable. There are no other plans made at that time. There is no working around it. And that is specifically set aside to do things. And that's normally the bigger things. So for me, it could be things like going back and watching a webinar in there whilst I'm also doing some other bits and pieces. You know, and the other thing I've started looking at is what might take me 5 minutes, what might take me 30 minutes, what really needs a good solid hour or two dedicated to it, and sorting those things out. So sending an email about my meetup, that takes me 5 minutes. So I can squeeze that in at any point. And if I do have a spare 5 minutes, then I do it. Which is why it's important for me to keep the track of, these are the things that I need to achieve. Because then I can start looking at I've got a little bit here, I've got a little bit here, I can do this here and here's here. One of the other things that has proven to be very, very useful is setting myself the timer.
Yes.
So that's a huge difference for two reasons. One, I'm like, I only have to do this for 30 minutes. And the second thing is, you'd be amazed at what you can get done in 30 minutes.
Yeah, when you've got a deadline on it, absolutely. So I know that you have marketed, obviously, your meetup and things like that. So how do you go with marketing your business?
That one is still very much a work in progress.
Yep.
The bit that I am really trying to, I guess, wrap my head around at the moment is how to speak to that, talking about avatar earlier, it's about how to speak to that person.
Yeah.
That they really understand. So for me, I've been going back and revisiting and trying to get a better understanding of that person, to then get a better understanding of how to talk to that person.
Yeah. I heard a very good stay, you know, when you hear things, sometimes you go, that's so good, that's so good, I really love that. Because one of the things was, you know, one idea, one sentence, one idea. But I heard, and I wrote it down, and now I can't find it, but it was something, communication isn't what you say, communication is what they hear. And I just thought, yeah, that's exactly it. Avatar, ideal client, whatever word you want to put on it. It's not what we say, because we say what we think we're communicating and it comes out this way. But if they're not hearing it through the same filters, then they can't hear what we intend.
No.
So that's why it is really important to with words, videos, however you choose to do it, but to communicate something in their map of the world, in their brain, in their filters. So if I said to you struggle, but your word for struggle was hardship, for example, and I keep going struggle, 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 you're not going to hear me because you don't have a reference point for that word. And I know that's a small word that's probably irrelevant, but you get what I mean. And that's the importance. It really struck me yesterday. It was just in the middle and it came out. It's like, communication isn't what you say. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not what I say? It's like what they hear. And that's such a key distinction, I think, to understand. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. And it's then trying to put myself outside of me and how I think into how they think. And I very much struggle with that.
Yeah, I think, and I have struggled with that for years, but one thing that I have found really useful was to kind of sit still with myself and think of when I was, you know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or whatever. And I know you mentioned earlier you just wanted somebody to come and fix it. Well, what was it? If you sit in that, literally immerse yourself in that, well, what actually did you need at that time? What could somebody have said? What would have resonated with you? That's where some of it comes from. Because if you've had that problem, you can be guaranteed a lot of other people have had it too, or a way, shape, or form of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So it's going back a bit to before where you are now, because where you are now, and you know, where any of us are now, we can only bring people to the level kind of we are. You need extra help or whatever to go to a higher level because you don't have a reference point. You've never bloody been there. It's like, there's 3 stories in my house. Is there really? I've only ever been to 2. I don't even know what the top one looks like. So what do you wish now that you had have done earlier in regards to your business?
Prioritized.
Prioritize the business.
Yeah, that is definitely the thing I wish. My day job has ebbs and flows in it. And at the moment, this is a very hardcore, full-on time that's quite mentally draining. Yeah. 12 months ago, it wasn't. So I do wish that I'd had that, I guess, even that realization that I wasn't prioritizing it 12 months ago.
Yeah, that's it.
So then I could have started putting in some of the bigger things then to make it a little bit easier now.
To put, how important have you found, and I'm not sure how far you are, that structure is in that? Oh dear.
Yeah, I mean, my level of structure is going to be very different to your level because the size of the business is so different. It definitely helps. And one of my things right from the beginning with doing the courses and learning all the stuff before I really had started and had clients was I wanted to get the foundations in right from the beginning, because I know that when the foundations are there, it becomes much, much easier further down the path.
Absolutely, 100%.
And I didn't want to get to a certain point and then have to try and put those foundations in.
Yeah. I used to be I used to liken it to, I jump off the side of the cliff and then go, shit, I've got no parachute. And I was doing that in business. I was going, oh, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. And I wasn't putting the structure underneath it. But it was exhausting, exhausting. And now, and there's some great tools out there, as you would know of, that you can actually put the structure in. So I did that over kind of Christmas, New Year period and put all this stuff into that it's there now. Like I have a process for every event I run, down to charging bloody rechargeable batteries. Like it's all there. And, you know, when the marketing plan needs to be done and all of that sort of thing. So now I have reminders, and you can take that chunk of information out of there, and it leaves more room for you to actually grow and go, okay, I've got that there. I'm secure in the fact that it'll remind me, or that it's all brain dumped there. And now I can get on with building the business even more.
Mm.
Yeah. So structure is vital. So if you could start all over again, and I know we asked, you know, what would you change, but what would you do differently from the beginning when you had that little spark of an idea?
I actually don't know. I think about it and I go, to be honest, I don't know that I would have done anything differently. I mean, I know I have the wish, the hindsight thing, but I had to do a lot of work. Like I was starting out at zero. So I had to do a lot of work to even get the basic concepts in place. And
Yeah.
I think what I have done to get me here was probably what I needed to do at the time when I was ready for it. I think to try and introduce, you know, for example, I'm now doing your business builders network thing. Have I got that one right?
Yeah, our membership. Yeah, our membership. Better Business Builders. Yeah.
Yeah, Better Business Builders. I knew I'd missed a word in there.
That's okay.
If I was doing that 12 months ago, that would have been way beyond what I was ready to deal with. But because I've done all the other things leading up to it, now it makes sense and now it's worthwhile and it's worth that investment for me. So I don't know
How
that
to
I
put
really
the how-to all together. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I really could have done anything differently because I needed to take this process.
Oh, it all happens exactly as it's meant to. Sometimes I would look at mine and go, oh my God, I wish I'd started when I was a bit younger. So, you know, because we have these things, but I didn't. And it's exactly perfect as it is right now. That's the way it's supposed to be. So what's the best advice you would give somebody who was considering going into business? Because somewhere along the line, we've had a spark that we want to go in business. If somebody had told us how hard it was in some ways, it's like, I wouldn't go down that road. I'd just do something different earlier, but I don't think that's true either. But what would you give them as advice if they were considering it?
Find a mentor. Find somebody who has been there, who has done it, who, especially somebody who has screwed up and had failures, because then they know what works and what doesn't. So, well, yes. Especially because I was coming from a place of no experience, you see these really super successful people and you're like, well, I can never do that.
Yeah.
But finding someone who has failed and has managed to rebuild, that was the person that I needed to know that, okay, actually, you know what? I could probably do that.
Yeah. And I love that you say that, because so many people have had whatever we call failure, which, you know, we know they're not really failures. But some people judge on that and they say, oh, well, that person built a business and they lost everything. Then, yeah, but they rebuilt another one. So they know how to fast track it. And I think quite often we get the promises of fast tracking it, but the reality is underneath it, there is no real fast track. Yeah, you can get a few little hits here and there, but I know I started coaching, for example, I did my coaching course nearly 11 years ago. And I compared myself like Billy-O to all these people. Even over the years I've gone, oh my God, I mentored that person. How are they so famous? And I'm still here, blah, 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 all this stuff. But I can guarantee you there's less than one hand of any of those people that I ever even hear about now. But I had some illusion that they were so successful or whatever. And it was all in my own head. So I love that you say it is so vital to get a mentor that has been where you've been, or even if they're 3 to 5 steps ahead of you, it's like, well, we can shorten some of those steps for you.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I know with you that you were talking about in the other interview that you help women that, you know, suffer some anxiety and things like that because they're going through a change of whether it's a husband passing away like yourself, or maybe a breakdown of a relationship, or a breakdown of a I don't know who I am anymore. How can those people contact you and get in contact with you so that you can help repurpose, facilitate their repurposing?
Straight up, you can email me, which is admin@repurposefacilitation.com.au. But really, you know, if you're anything like me and you want to kind of sound people out first, best place is to jump into my Facebook group, which is called Women Rediscovering Purpose. And I also have a matching meetup group where we get together roughly once a month to talk about a particular topic. In fact, this month's is coming up this Sunday, which is the 19th, and we are talking about the masculine and the feminine energies and the characteristics, and we've got a special guest speaker coming in who's going to talk specifically around the strength that comes from the feminine energy, which for me is really important because I found that certainly in the way that I was raised, it was to be feminine was seen as being weak. So to learn that actually there is great strength in that and there is great value in that, I think is really important.
Well, the feminine, going back in the day, the feminine were the ones that kept community. Because if they didn't, while the man was out, you know, killing tigers and whatever, if they didn't create community with the other women and children, the potential was that their whole tribe could be wiped out.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a huge strength in, and that's why as women that we create community so well. Well, yeah, that's a whole other story. Jaime, thank you so much. I can't believe how quickly the time has gone. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us here. And I look forward to seeing your growing from strength to strength even more. And look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you. And thank you very much for having me on.
My pleasure. Bye from me.
Bye.